Hi, guys. Welcome to Girls Gone Woke, where we inspire you to live a more conscious and joyful life. I'm Monica.
And I'm Claire. We're so grateful to have you here and bring you along on this journey with us.
Let's get started.
Look at those earrings, that little headband. Boho chic. I'm looking Wisconsin cold.
Stop, Claire.
Let's just jump into it.
Starting the new year, we took a little break at the beginning of the year just to practice what we preach because we both needed a little technology break. Now we're back,
We're
but
back. We missed you.
we did, and
Mhm.
I missed Claire.
I know. We talked about it. We were like, did we go through a breakup?
I
Because
know, I
we
felt so
talked so
lost.
much.
Do we
I
break
know
up?
my dad's like, Claire, it's gonna be okay.
Since we seem to come up with topics based on our own recent life events,
Yeah.
that's how we came to the topic of faith over fear. Just
Hmm.
because me personally, I've always said that I've had a very strong faith, but yet I've had so much fear, especially more recently, just because I've started a new job and I'm a nurse with COVID, and now we're in an ICU surge. So it's just been very, very chaotic at the hospital that I'm at. And it's just in a new setting. So I've had so much fear. But I realized
Mhm.
that I can't say that I trust the process and have faith that God or the universe or whatever you want to call it is guiding me and that I'm on the right path, and also have fear at the same time, because those two just don't coincide. They're complete opposites.
Mhm.
And that was a completely new realization for me, because I always thought I had so much faith and I did always say that I trust the process. But then I'm like, how can I still be on the verge of a panic attack and have so much fear in me? And then I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, well, I guess I'm not fully trusting and I'm not in full faith because I'm still scared. That was
Mhm.
like such a good wake up call for me. And all of this is happening for me because it made me come to this realization. And now I can learn how to let go of my fear and be fearless, because that's a quality that I want to have.
Yes. And to bouncing off of that, at the start of a new year, I feel like comes a lot of pressures where you're like, I want to do this, and you have a big goal list. So at the beginning of this new year, I thought I was going into it with a lot of faith. And for me, kind of like Monica said, like faith, I still am trying to figure out what that means for me. But what I found is that it's like trusting the process. So here I thought I was all good and I was trusting the process, whatever happens, happens. But I had just like almost a panic attack too.
Mhm.
And like just a few days ago. And it was interesting because I don't like believing in coincidences. I think if there are so many coincidences in a row, it's not a coincidence anymore. It's like a sign or like a spiritual sign for me.
Absolutely.
And it was so interesting, Monica. So this year, I'm not really huge into like the word resolution, but I think it's awesome to start a new year just with like a clear mind and some fun goals. And I decided this year I was going to give myself the word clarity, just because I want to give myself grace and like just be more gentle with myself while I figure out where I'm going next. And I was having a panic attack. I was just freaking out. I was laying in bed and my boyfriend Tony like looks at me and he's like, Claire, first off, you just like need to have faith that everything will work out. And it was so simply put. I'm like, you're right, you're right. You can say that. And then he grabs a book and it's the Daily Stoic. I think I've talked about it before.
Oh, yes.
Really, there's like so many pages in it. And the page that he opened up to in like big bold letters, it just said clarity. And he
Oh,
started reading me the chapter. And even talking about it, I get chills
that
because
gave me chills.
I was so worked up that I couldn't get out of bed, just being honest. And when he read out the word clarity that I wrote down in my journal, like at the start of the new year, and read to me what it meant, it gave me so much peace. And to me, I was like, this is a sheer sign that the universe does work in our favor. Like I needed
Yeah.
that at that moment. And ever since he read me that chapter, I have felt like just this like load lifted off my shoulders. Like, just trust the process. And even if you're feeling overwhelmed, it's okay.
Same for me is when I realized that I was having a lot of fear, just that awareness of it
Hmm.
made me be able to like logically in my mind be like, okay, this is a very irrational fear because I know that I'm on the right path. Like I trust my gut and I just feel like this is the right place. And I know that God is guiding me,
Yep.
universe is guiding me. And so it doesn't logically make sense for me to then have any fear with it because this is where I'm supposed to be. So it was easier for me to then like let go some of that fear. I mean, not
Yeah.
all of it because sometimes my mind can say this is illogical, like I shouldn't have fear, but I still feel
Hmm.
like anxious and have like tightness in my chest.
Yeah.
But it does help like becoming aware of that.
Right. And I think too, just with our self journeys, it can be in the beginning before we were even like what awoken to ourselves. It was so interesting because if I would have been living on autopilot like I was in the past, I noticed my anxiety was so much higher. But now that I try and live more presently, it kind of eases my mind about what's to come because I know if I'm living in the present, it's setting me up for a better future.
Yeah.
And like when I get anxiety like that, faith to me is just like having this belief that whatever is meant to be will be. And whenever I think back on my past, if I had a really bad day or was going through a really rough time, I've always made it through to the other side, no matter what it was. And so that also just like helps me trust the process more because
Yeah.
I know that whatever happens, I've dealt with it in the past. So I know whatever comes in the future, I'll be able to deal with it. And the universe has always like set me up to be in a better place than I was before or taught me a lesson. So I think just like trusting your process and trusting yourself along the way is huge, but it's hard to do sometimes. Like, I get it.
Yes. I love that. That was so well said.
I was texting with Mon and I was like, how the hell am I going to talk about this? Like, I still don't know what faith is to me completely. But how did you describe it again in the text? It was so well put.
It just, well, faith to me is trusting that everything is going to work out. The
Hmm.
universe has your back, trusting the process, whether you are spiritual, religious, or not.
Hmm.
If you believe in some sort of higher power, some call it God, some call it the universe, something, trusting that you are being like divinely guided. It is hard to describe because like sometimes I use the word God, whereas Claire uses more like universe.
Yeah.
And it is so subjective to talk about. And it's just such
Hmm.
like an abstract topic that you can't really define what faith is because I would define it based on like my own perception and my personal views, and Claire would define it based on her views. And
Hmm.
that's just like what it is for each of us. No one's going to have the same understanding of faith. But
Right.
I do know that faith, I correlate it with trust. And yeah, I know that you can't have faith and full trust and have fear at the same time.
Hmm.
And I think it's hard for us humans because people like to be in control. And especially in times of uncertainty, like now during a pandemic, it's harder to have faith because we like to have like a plan for our life. And like, even if we think in our heads that we know what our day is going to look like, that
Hmm.
gives us like a false sense of comfort because really we know that like our day is not in our hands, it's out of our control. But if we think we know what's coming, we have less anxiety and less fear. But
Yeah.
faith is having, being fearless with the unknown. And if
Right.
you look back on your life, like so much, at least for me, of stress and anxiety I have created in my head.
Hmm.
So even with this new travel contract, seeing these intubated COVID patients in my mind, I'm like panicking because I'm like, how am I gonna do this? This is too much. and I'm
Mhm.
not going to be able to handle this contract. But during my actual shift, if I focus at one task at a time
Mhm.
and not think too much about what could happen,
Yeah.
I'm able to get through it pretty effortlessly.
Yeah.
And it's just, I add so much more pressure to myself and panic myself because of my mind and like not trusting myself and not trusting that I'm being guided.
Yeah. That is huge. And that is so hard for me too. I'm very lackadaisical and it's hard for me. So I know how
Yeah.
hard it must be for like a planner.
Oh, that's so true. Yeah. I didn't even think about that.
I just think overall it's so important to have just like a grounding foundation that is a constant in your life. Like living in a world that's constantly changing, having something that you can go to like help you get through those hard times and cope, it just creates this space that is so beneficial to how you get through your days and your life. And I think if you have faith, it makes life so much more colorful and it makes it like worthwhile because no matter what you believe, you always believe that something like greater is coming.
What are some grounding tips that you used in your life if you're feeling like super uncertain?
I've been trying to just like have a quiet time, whether I'm like meditating or sometimes I'll say a prayer. It just kind of depends on what I'm feeling that day. I also think it's really important to have people in your life. I like to surround myself with people like Mani and my boyfriend Tony who uplift me.
Yes.
And if I'm having a pessimistic day, because we all do, we all go through life changes, it's so nice having those people around you that can help ground you because without that, I would probably be a lost soul.
Hmm.
And I think too, just like learning. Sometimes I like sit and read spiritual books. It could be like a Buddha teaching or I don't know, like the Daily Stoic, like I was talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting because no matter what higher power you believe in, if you believe in a higher power, a lot of them have certain teachings that kind of relate to one another.
Yes.
And
I feel like
I
they
found,
all lead to the same place.
yep. And that like individual teachings I should say are so powerful because I'm like, wow, if these like very brilliant people or spiritual leaders or God, whatever you believe in, have the same idea of like what's good or like what will help you live a happier life, like why wouldn't I want to follow those?
Right.
So yeah, what do you do,
All great
Monty?
points. I, very similar to you, meditate. And sometimes if I'm really panicky, meditating isn't a good option for me because my mind is racing too much. So then I
Mhm.
like go out in nature and go on walks because it's more of like a walking meditation. I find that for me, if my mind is racing a lot, if I move my body,
Mhm.
that shuts it off more.
Yep.
So yeah, a long walk or a workout can help clear my mind. And Brian, my boyfriend, definitely is a go-to person. Claire is a go-to person. And reading like Eckhart Tolle books. He's a spiritual teacher that just is a little guru
He's
and
the
walk.
freaking
He's
best.
the best. And he talks about being in the now and being present. So just watching one of his talks brings me peace because he's just radiates peace.
He's woke AF.
He is the wokest motherfucker out there.
What
Yes.
we would do to sit down with him.
Oh my God. If I could have dinner with Etoli, life would
Eat
be complete.
fully. I think it's a good point that you bring up. Like sometimes sitting still for me makes like if I'm having a tough time or like ruminating thoughts, it makes it worse for me.
Yep.
Like it's such a good I'm glad that you brought that up because different things work better for different people. And for me, sometimes I just need a full on day in bed where I feel sorry for myself. And I joke, I'm like, Tony, I'm a victim. He's like, "Better stop." But, like, you need those days, but then other times, like, you need somebody there to be like, "No, like, enough. Like, I know this will help make you feel better. Let's go for a walk, or like, let's go grab a coffee, or just get out of the house."
Right.
So it is true. Like, it takes a village, and having people there that can help bring you back to that like state is huge.
Right.
And one thing too that I want to bring up, I think that it's important to know that not every day is meant to be like, you're not supposed to be elated every day. And I think a lot of us put this like pressure on ourselves that every day is meant to be happy and perfect. And it's so easy to fall into that trap. And I realized that when I was kind of going through my life like that, I was constantly like let down. I
Mhm.
think it's good to know that life will always be changing, and it'll always be up, and it'll always go down.
Yep.
And when you kind of come to that like realization, that I think faith comes into play there too, because it's like when you have those down moments, like my faith always like brings me back up to this like baseline. And it also keeps me grounded to not feel like I have to be up here all the time.
Well, that's such a good way to look at it too, because you're right. I think just society as a whole puts so much pressure and they label emotions as good and bad when really all emotions are beautiful and they all serve a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can't be happy every single day of your life. Like some days you're going to feel sad or hurt, but there's a purpose for all of that. And you don't have to label those feelings as bad because everybody experiences them. They're just a part of life, they're just an energy. There's some days where you'll have like amazing things happen that will end up on your gratitude, and some days where your gratitude list will simply be, I'm grateful for my breath
Mm-hmm.
and just being alive. I would just learn to not judge yourself and not compare yourself to what somebody else is doing, because like I said, there's a like big talk about meditation, and at least for me sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, if I'm not meditating or if meditating isn't making me feel better, then there's something wrong with me. But that's not true. I
Yeah.
just, you need to learn yourself and know, okay, sometimes meditating is really helpful and beneficial, but if I have too much going on in my mind, if I try to sit and meditate, it can sometimes make it worse. So I know me and I value myself enough to know that, okay, when I am really, really panicky, I'm not going to force myself to sit in a meditation. I'm going to go work out and then meditate, or I'm going to go on a long walk or talk to a friend, release some
Mm-hmm.
of that stuff, vent, and then I can sit and meditate. So just
Yeah.
don't judge yourself or compare yourself to what somebody else is doing, because what may work for one person may work in the opposite way for another person, and that's fine.
Yeah. So true. And I think too, like you said something about like trusting yourself to change when you need to like make changes in your life. And I think trust is a huge word, because it's something that when it's broken with other people in your own world, whether it's a relationship or a betrayal, it's really, really hard to get that back.
Mhm.
And so I think that's why a lot of people struggle with faith, is because it's trusting in something that you can't necessarily see. It's not tangible, or sometimes it's not scientifically proven.
Right.
But for me, it's this feeling that it's so hard to describe, but this feeling has also helped me gain trust within my own self and my own capabilities, that I know what's meant for me will be, but it also helps me in those moments in the day to day where I'm like actually having to concretely make decisions about where I want to be next. So I used to be so insecure, but I found through faith and just life that once I kind of like filled up that cup, I gained trust in myself, that no matter if I felt insecure, I was still going to go to that job interview, or
Mhm.
I was still going to make the move. And those are like more, I don't know, concrete examples. But when you get trust in yourself, you also it'll help propel you forward. And yeah, we don't want to be inclusive to just one belief system. Like Mani and I are both different. We're all different human beings navigating the world in our own way, in the best way we know how. But having a strong sense that better things are coming and trusting the process has made the world of a difference for both of us. Do you think we covered it okay?
I think we covered it great. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, see, here I am talking about trust in myself, and I'm already
Yeah.
down.
Hello.
We hope this resonates with you in one way or another.
We hope it brings you some sort of peace that you can carry with you this week. And
Mhm.
let us know if you have any other topic ideas for us next Sunday. And we hope you guys have an amazing week.
Have an amazing week, GGW fam.
Have faith, not fear.